it appears we now know who is going to be LeBron James' next coach in Los Angeles. The answer, it's JJ Redick.
Okay.
They're doing it, Bennett. They're hiring a podcaster.
It's just, okay, first off, that is hilarious that they are hiring a podcaster to be there. It's the most 2024 thing that could possibly happen to an NBA coaching search.
They should have hired Joe Rogan.
I know. No, they shouldn't have.
They should have hired Alex Cooper.
Well, that'd do numbers. That actually might work. Joe Rogan would do numbers too, in fairness.
I mean, in fairness, whatever you think of Joe Rogan, he does numbers.
Yeah, he does numbers.
We don't have to lie about that.
Yeah.
It's hilarious in the sense that when I frame it the way that I'm framing it, it's just funny. The Lakers are hiring a podcaster. They could have hired Joe Rogan or Alex Cooper, but they went with JJ Redick. Ha, ha, ha. Is it hilarious, though, that they're doing this? Are you convinced this is going to be ridiculous?
I don't know if it's going to be ridiculous. He has zero coaching experience. Like, okay, to make it local, like when the Tigers hired Penny Hardaway, at least Penny Hardaway had coached like high school basketball,
right.
You know, and AAU. Like JJ Redick is not coached.
I mean, he's done like some youth basketball stuff.
Okay, fine.
But that's you know, like that's like I've done youth baseball. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so people will say the one that gets pointed to a lot today is, well, Steve Kerr. Look at him. He's won multiple championships. Right. He didn't coach high level basketball. He was part of a front office, though,
sure.
And so you're part of the day-to-day of just how an NBA organization works. I think that's a little bit different than just literally taking a guy that's never done this before, besides being on NBA rosters,
right.
And making him the head coach of a team. So we'll see. I think that because he has the LeBron stamp of approval, that it'll be okay to start.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I mean, how much longer does LeBron even have? Like, you know, what happens after that?
People keep throwing around the name Pat Riley. I've heard Pat Riley, hashtag Pat Riley.
Yeah.
They say JJ Redick. He strikes me as a Pat Riley. Hey, who was Pat Riley before he was Pat Riley?
Well, that's true.
He was at least an assistant coach. He was at least that.
Right.
And was around. But similarly, you know, with the Pat Riley situation, that didn't make any sense on a surface level. But among the reasons that got done, it's because Magic Johnson said, I believe in this guy.
Well, there you go.
Magic Johnson said, and then keep in mind, I mean, like, you know, Dr. Buss is no longer with us. Rest in peace to Dr. Buss.
Mm-hmm.
But same family. It's not crazy to think, you know, the same line of thinking could be in play. Once upon a time, Magic Johnson said, I believe in this guy. I think he can do this. I know this guy.
Yep.
I've talked to this guy. I've spent time with this guy. I'm telling you, this guy can do this. They said, okay. And the rest, as they say, is history. LeBron James clearly believes in JJ Redick.
Right.
You don't jump on a podcast with somebody you don't think is your equal, that you don't think is as smart as you. You don't think is as basketball brilliant as you, right? Yeah. So that it starts there. And I know that all the reports are that LeBron stayed out of this thing, but just trust me when I tell you, whether he ever like dialed a number and said, hey, this is the king. I would like to talk to you about our coaching search. They know what he thinks. They know who he likes, who he doesn't like. And if they didn't know, and here's the other thing, like LeBron always catches hell for this. Like, you know, LeBron's running things. He should have his fingers on everything. He is arguably the greatest player in the history of the game, undeniably one of the greatest players in the history of the game. He is still operating like one of the greats in the NBA, not at his peak, not as the best player in the world, but he's still one of the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. They should care about who he likes and who he doesn't like, and what he wants and what he doesn't want. And so if they are factoring that into this, that's not insane to me. Like that's happened a million times in the history of the NBA. And so this is the one sport where we can all laugh about it and make our jokes and find clips from the podcast and, oh, it's going to be funny when, you know, things don't go well, if they don't go well. Mm-hmm. But this is the one sport where stuff like this has worked before, you know?
That's true.
Stuff like this has worked before. You know, it's not one of those things where you can point to it and go, nothing like this works ever. So what are you doing? Or even things like this rarely work. So what are you doing? There are multiple examples of guys being hired before the rest of the world thought they were ready to do the job they were hired to do. And it doesn't always work out, obviously, because nothing always works out. You could hire somebody who's been a 5-time head coach, and it might not work out. You could hire somebody who's been an NBA assistant for 15 years, and it might not work out. So it doesn't matter what type of candidate you're looking for. You want head coaching experience. You want a long-time assistant. You want somebody from a franchise that's been winning a lot. You want somebody who's worked under a Hall of Fame coach. Like, whatever it is you are looking for, I can find you an example of a guy who's worked. Oh, man, that worked really well. Or one that just didn't. It ultimately comes down to the person. Like, is the person capable of doing the job? One of the beliefs I've long held about basketball coaches, I guess you could probably say this about any kind of coach, any kind of leader of people, maybe like as broad as that, any type of leader of people. But the good ones are good, and the great ones are great, and the bad ones are bad. And the path they take to get wherever they're at rarely matters.
Yeah.
Like, you, under normal circumstances, would never hire a 29-year-old John Calipari to run a Division I men's basketball program. I mean, think about that for a second. And I forget whether John was 29 or 30, but it was in that range, very young. Like, think about how young that is.
Right.
Think about if you heard there was that type of person being hired for a Division I men's basketball job, you'd be like, whoa, what's going on?
That's
Except
crazy.
somebody recognized something in him and said this person is capable. Rick Pitino was hired at a very young age. Billy Donovan was hired at a very young age. Steve Kerr was hired without coaching experience. In every one of these cases, somebody recognized something in them and said, if I were just making this decision off of a Wikipedia page, this makes no sense whatsoever. The part of the Wikipedia page where I'm supposed to be looking at accomplishments and experience, there ain't nothing there as it pertains to the job I'm evaluating this person for. But I've been around this person. I've talked to this person. I've talked to people who know this person better than I think this can work. Like, that's something that actually happens in basketball coaching searches all the time. So there's when it comes to stuff like this, I'll bottom line it this way, then we'll get Mike Wallace in here. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm not certain that it won't. He's clearly an impressive guy.
Yeah.
All right. He spent a long time in the NBA.
He's a great basketball mind. We've seen it, on TV for years now.
One doesn't necessarily equate to the other, but he's been incredibly successful at everything he's tried. I take note of that with people. When I see somebody and I go, well, everything they try to do, they're good at it. Maybe that is just a unique talent. He really might be that.
Yeah.
He might be that. I don't know. I don't know the guy at all. I've met him a couple of times. I don't know him at all. But to go from player to media talent who rose straight to the top of the genre he's in. I want to be a basketball analyst. He went straight to the top of that. He'll be calling the NBA Finals tomorrow night.
Right.
That happened very quickly. He didn't have to put in the work.
No.
The way a lot of people put in the work. It happened very quickly for him. Here's this guy. He now works for us. Wow, he's impressive. Let's take him straight to the top. That just happened. All right? LeBron James recognized something in him that made him say, let's sit down and talk about basketball on video and call it a podcast.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.